Jordynne Grace getting on Twitter and condemning the Sandman because this past weekend at WrestleCade, apparently the Sandman. Well, I'll read you the tweets. So Jordynne Grace tweets, "Hey, remember the time that the Sandman came up to 4 women about to main event to tell us that women main eventing is wrong, and any male wrestler with any sort of experience would agree? Was this in 1998? No, it was tonight, December 29th. So her contention was that Sandman said that about the women main eventing WrestleCade. However, when Tessa Blanchard came out to the ring and just brought it up in front of the people, her promo was as follows: "I was in the back earlier tonight and I had to listen to an old ECW guy that used to have a beer in his hand talk about how women shouldn't be main eventing this event or any event. Not because he didn't have faith in these women, but because he didn't have faith in you fans. It's 2020 and I think that's a crock of horseshit. The women in this ring right now are some of the best women's wrestlers. No, they are some of the best wrestlers in this business. You're looking at women who have traveled the world and held notable titles in notable companies all over the entire world. I can't think of anybody better to main event." And the main event was Jordynne Grace versus Rosemary versus Taya Valkyrie versus Tessa Blanchard, but Tessa was injured and couldn't take part. But from what I understand, Sandman, and I heard this, and a couple of inside sources said that Sandman's contention was only that he didn't think the crowd would take to the women's main event because he thought the Great Muta and his match should be main eventing. And he didn't even say it.
Who was Great Muta? Who was Great Muta? Wait. Who was Great Muta wrestling?
I'm not sure about that one. But,
can you check?
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up now.
All right, I'm just gonna shut this down very quickly. All right, we're making a mountain. Jordynne Grace is making a mountain out of a molehill. Okay, Sandman is a drunk. Okay, every time I've seen him at shows, when he was even on the show, or if he's on the show, he's been at the show drunk. Okay, so like it's not like, and he's not really on social media. He's not on, it's like an old school guy, drunk at the show, and then made a comment. And now it's what these women are doing is they're extrapolating that and to try and using one guy's drunk comment to like, look at how the hardships women are facing and stuff and everything. It's like, bro, all that matters is the house. Okay, if the women are the main event, if the house drew, fine. Okay, if women are main event and the house does not draw, then it's problematic. And right now, where women are main eventing professional wrestling shows, the big shows, during a period of time when the ratings are at their rock bottom. Okay, so I'm not going to ignore that. All right, so if you don't want to talk about all the facts involved here, Tessa Blanchard is a great performer. So we all know that sort of thing. But like, is there a market? Are you going to attack the target market for professional wrestling by promoting women as your top draws going forward? Is that a plausible, reasonable course of action for professional wrestling companies to take for the future growth of this business? That's the question. I would say no. I just do not. They're obviously, even if they're as a business plan, I would contest. It does not seem reasonable that your target market would, that you would get the most out of promoting, those girls. Now, the ones that are really good are higher on the card. They get more reactions, everything. But just like randomly, polarizing this business into the guys and the girls and saying the girls are main eventing. It's like a few girls are main eventing because a couple of them are really good performers. This isn't like the future of the business is women main eventing because most of the women aren't that good. Okay, but like that's just facts. I mean, they're not that good. There's the ones that stick out look really good. So I would say that. What's your
so who was Muta playing? Who was Muta facing?
George South.
Muta versus George South is not a main event in any arena in the country.
I don't think it was.
Would you agree with that, Conan?
It wasn't an 89 either.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But however, it did.
Yeah, I'm not even a promoter, but given those two matches, okay, I would not have Muta versus George South as my main event.
Well, here's the thing. Wait a minute.
Hack is a good friend, and I was willing to give Hack the benefit of the doubt if Joe would have said somebody like
Nick Aldis,
something like that. You know what I'm saying?
But here's
George
the thing.
South.
Here's the thing I neglected to mention, and maybe this will help a little bit, give Hack a little bit more of a case. At WrestleCade, there was some sort of tribute to George South, and it is a really old school audience. So maybe if it was George's last event and his last match, maybe that's why he would consider like, hey, put Muta and George out there last. We're doing a big tribute to George. I guess that maybe was his motivation.
Here's another thing. This is strictly up to the promoter. The promoters run the show. The promoters paying the talent. Whatever the promoter, that individual promoter, wants to put on the top of his card to run a show, brother, this like Sandman's complaining to the girls is dumb. Like, go complain to the guy that ran the show.
Yeah, he supposedly.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
He said it to the promoter, but Tessa was right there. So Jordynne wasn't even. Jordynne was probably told or
So
something.
he didn't directly say that to the girls.
No.
They overheard him say that to the promoter, and they put him on blast on Twitter.
That's,
but
that's
here's
the
here-
word.
What they did, yeah.
That's the word.
So they took a locker room conversation, just blasted on Twitter to try to
Yeah.
get sympathy.
Because they know for sure that if you put out there today with the women's movement and all inclusivity and all the femboys that we have out there that they defend anything that's woman related, even if it's inferior, they knew that the minute that they put that out there, everybody was going to come out with the over the top, outrage.
Kevin Kills.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And that's exactly what happened.
And I saw a lot of tweets that were like, "Are we supposed to expect the Sandman to be some sort of progressive beacon of light? It's the fucking Sandman, you know?"
Yeah, I mean, like, really, seriously, if you're upset at a comment the Sandman's making, I mean, come on, it's like. Seriously, I'll tell this to the people that are upset about that. If you're in the business and you're one of the women that's upset about that, this business is a little bit too tough for you then. Okay, you got to have a little bit more thick skin.
Bro, you're talking to a snowflake generation.
I'm just telling you.
You're talking to a generation.
Yeah, the snowflake generation isn't drawing any fans.
Yeah.
The snowflake generation is not drawing any fans. I mean, every week on TV, we're seeing the ratings, but bottom out, they get lower and lower. And you're looking around going, like, and people like us are sitting there saying, hey, you guys may not be doing this stuff right. And it's like, oh, I'm toxic. It's like, whatever. It's all this social justice crap it just does not belong in this business. I'm sorry. It's like all this inclusivity and stuff.
Too late.
The professional wrestling.
Way too late on that. Way too late on that.
I'm aware of that, but like those conversations are not conducive to the business model that professional wrestling needs to be run under, which is grown men competing in fights with grown women, with brash language, sex appeal, and simulated fighting. It's just like these conversations are just stupid. They don't do anything to promote this product. They're going to talk about it's the time of the women now. So who gives it? Come on, people just want to go and be entertained and watch a good show.
It also seems like she seems to be a regular with the Twitter complaints, Jordynne Grace. This isn't the first time, Yeah,
she's the one that said this is art, we're artists and stuff. Bro, they're rewriting the book.
Yeah.
I'm saying is draw a dime before you rewrite the book. That's all I would say to these people. Draw a dime first. Then you can rewrite the rules. But if you guys are rewriting the rules and you're not drawing any dimes, it's like, I'm sorry. If they think even Conan would agree with that. Like all these...
At the end of the day, I like women's wrestling. I like good women's wrestling, right? But at the end of the day, I'm just sick and tired of all this bullshit of, women are getting a break. They're finally getting the break that they didn't get in Mexico. For many years, it was just women versus women. Now you have women versus men. You have women. I had women in the main event, which had never been done in 26 years of AAA, but you're getting the chance that you didn't get before. Everybody is. It's more, before it was just very close. Before you'd go to a territory, I grew up in that era where they'd only have one black guy or two black guys or one Latino, or as they considered them, gimmicks. They had one girl, but that's all changed. So what are you crying about? You're getting the opportunity you always wanted in movie, in theater, on TV, in politics. There's more women than ever in politics.
Yeah. Bro, there's more women in this country than there are men. Yeah. They represent 51 or 52% of the country. But they don't have the power. For many years, men have abused their power, and that's what they're striking back against. But they're finally getting equality. So what are you bitching about? I mean, you're getting equality. That's the whole thing. They're getting equality, and they've had equality in society for a while. They're pretending like they don't. That's the funniest thing.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say
let me tell you something.
For a while.
What they do is like, this is what I don't like about them. It's like they're trying to shield themselves from criticism. And in this day and age where we rate the matches and the wrestling fans are kind of geeky like that, it's like, I'm sorry, you can't shield yourself from criticism. You got to have thick skin to be in this business,
Yeah,
and a lot of these people just do not show it to the guys and the girls. It's ridiculous.
It's like the Survivor Series, the WWE pay-per-view they just had. The main event was a three-way women's match, and it wasn't very good. I'm not going to say it was good just because it was a women's main event. It wasn't very good.
No, let me ask you a question. When was the last time they had a women's main event that was good?
WrestleMania, I thought was good with Ronda.
Was that good? That was not good.
I liked it.
It wasn't good. Look at the reviews of the man. It was choppy. It was like we wasn't that good. It was arguably the other main event they had. What was the recent one? The Survivor Series, they had the women for the main event, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that stunk too.
No, but what was the women's WrestleMania match? I forgot now.
Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky.
Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky. Remember? Wasn't that good?
Trying to remember.
The finish got botched.
Finish was
got
shitty.
botched.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm not going to pretend if like you want to be put in the top spot, then the criticism goes along with that spot.
Yeah, but we know Becky's a good wrestler. We know Charlotte's a good wrestler, and they can have great matches. And we've seen Ronda in good matches if she's led. The problem is, it's like anything else, bro. It's like, I remember when MMA first started, right? And the first girl that, at first I wasn't sure if I even wanted to see women fight, because I was like, I don't think they're going to bring it like the guys. That was my mentality without knowing anything about it. And then when I started to saw Gina Carano and she was kicking some ass, and then Ronda Rousey came in and she was kicking some ass, and the women were almost always having the best fights on Strikeforce. You remember that, Disco? I think it was almost like, here's our chance. We got to prove that we can, show and prove, or we're not going to be hired anymore. And they went out there and they kicked it. And I remember Dana was against having a women's division. And then finally they did have a women's division. And then you started to see other women coming in. But the problem is right now, there aren't a lot of great women MMA fighters. There's some, but I'm just thinking in 5 years there's going to be more, and in 10 years there's going to be even more. And the same thing with women's wrestling. Like the women's wrestling for so long in the United States was just bullshit. The Divas Revolution, where you just looked hot but you didn't know what the fuck you were doing. And then finally, like that. I think that when Sasha and all those people came out in NXT, and Charlotte and Becky and that little group, they decided, you know what, we're going to wrestle. We're going to try to wrestle like the guys and fucking not just be eye candy. Then you started to see more women coming out, and you saw, Taya and Tessa, but still it's a small sampling. But it's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger.
But let me tell you too. This is the thing, and don't try to tell me that this isn't what happened. Okay, is that when they started using women in Strikeforce and started using them in UFC and stuff, right? And like you watch the women's fights, and the women's fights were usually pretty good. Why were they pretty good? Well, I've got a reason for it.
They were exciting. I saw they were exciting. They were bringing. They were bringing it. Either they were booked better. I don't know.
No. Here's what they were. They weren't as athletically skilled as the guys. So the fights were kind of like more or less unskilled street fights. With less skilled fighters slugging it out. Right. And so what happened was we saw the girls that were definitely better athletes than the other ones quickly rising up through the ranks, because they were killing the other girls in short order. Ronda Rousey was beating people in 30 seconds. Joanna Jurczyk was beating. These girls were showing like it's the same thing as what you have in professional wrestling. Cyborg, here's the thing. And once you have a professional wrestling, a small handful of girls at the top, and the rest are kind of just like the same. They just can't compete with those girls. You know what I'm saying? They're definitely not as good.
One I said looked like Russell Westbrook, Amanda Nunes. Another one. Yeah.
Like, so you talk about the women. You talk about Joanna Jurczyk, Amanda Nunes, Cyborg, Ronda Rousey. There's another one in there I'm missing.
Yeah, there's a couple, I'm sure.
There's a couple others.
Yeah.
But beyond 7 or 8 girls, your list isn't going that long. You know what I'm saying? In the men's division, you could talk about a list of fighters, 50, 60 fighters that you think are pretty good. Like they can bring it. But this is what happened in professional wrestling with the women. The women that are significantly better than the other girls are sticking out like a sore thumb. And the rest of the women are kind of like, you know what it's like? It's like these SEC fans that always say, oh, we got the best conference. We have the best conference, because they're trying to piggyback off Alabama and stuff. Alabama would always be a national champion, and all the other SEC fans have said, oh, we're the best conference because one team was winning the national championship every year. But that's why I see with like a lot of these women. They're piggybacking off the girls that are really good and try and include all the women under that prism. It's like, no, the girls that are like really, really, really good are the ones that are at the top of the card on these shows, not just quote unquote women's wrestling generically, because a lot of the girls are not that good. I mean, I think that's the culture that exists right now. What do you think?
I wouldn't disagree with that. Yep. Yeah. But I do like good women's wrestling. That I will say that, or a good women's intergender match. All right. Anything else on Twitter that we need to talk about, Joe?
No, that was the latest.
All right.